Waste terminal. Automotive batteries. Tough.
प्लास्टिक बैग पर बैन, प्लास्टिक बैग पर
हाँ होना चाहिए।
प्लास्टिक बैग पर बैन।
जनता ने कहा हाँ तो हाँ।
इसी को कहते डेमोक्रेसी। व्हाट एन आइडिया सर जी, जय हो।
Long time, yaar. How was your garage? Getting along?
Oh, good yaar. Expanding a little. Want to see? Close by आएगा.
New scooter. Right पे चलिए.
चलो.
Expanding garage?
हाँ.
कैसे?
ओए सिंपल. Turnover तभी बढ़ सकता है जब production full हो. ओए तेरी.
Production? Turnover?
हाँ. And so to increase capacity, I took business loan from India Bulls, and by God, turnover एकदम आसमान छूने लगा. ओए थे. We made some changes here and there. जगह कम पड़ रही थी यार. We are expanding that side.
Fast and easy business loans from India Bulls.
Oh, if all goes right, I'm planning to launch my own brand of scooter.
Profit at Night, brought to you by Life Insurance Plans from HDFC Standard Life, Sarotha KGO, Government of Dubai, Department of Tourism and Commerce Marketing. And an idea can change your life.
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV Profit.
Hello and welcome to Question Time. I'm Omkar Goswami. Anyone familiar with Delhi's real power circuit knows that my guest today has been and is a consummate behind-the-scenes player in government. Expenditure Secretary, Revenue Secretary, Secretary to the Prime Minister under Atal Bihari Vajpayee, member of the Planning Commission, and since April 2008, a Rajya Sabha MP. Nand Kishore Singh, best known as NK. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Omkar.
NK, the government is still maintaining that it will do 7% GDP growth in 2008-09, 7.5% with luck. You're not in government anymore, so what do you think?
Well, to some extent, Omkar, these are perceptional issues. You perceive what you want to perceive. And sometimes what you perceive is from where you perceive it from.
That's very poetic, but what do you think?
Yes, but in actual terms, therefore, if you are sitting in the seat of power, you would like to imagine that that it is going to grow at above 7%. My own take on the subject is certainly going to be below 7%. How much below is to some extent what kind of figures emerge from Q3 and Q4 estimates, and which we know Q3 estimates will not be available till the end of February. To some extent, these are guess estimates. My own guess, if you were to really hold me to, would be somewhere in the region of 6.2 to 6.8 for this current year. For the full year as a whole, compensating for neutralizing the good performance of the first 6 months, depending on how bad Q3 and Q4 becomes.
Is this something to worry about? Because the standard thing is, look, the OECD countries have 1% to 1.5% fall in GDP. We are just having a fall in rate of growth from 9% to 6.5%. What should we worry about?
Of course, we should greatly worry, because for every 1 percentage point of GDP which we grow lower, there are consequences not only in terms of per capita income, there are consequences in terms of poverty alleviation program, there are serious consequences in terms of employment. Because one of the factors, I think, that in terms of the global meltdown has been the large layoffs and its multiplier effect reverberating particularly to the rural economy in terms of opportunity of jobs lost, people returning home on account of their job having vanished, and these are serious social issues.
As a Rajya Sabha MP, you've been hearing stories about layoffs. How bad are they? The numbers are not, they're very opaque, so how bad are they?
I think in terms of perceptions and in terms of what I hear from my colleagues in the Rajya Sabha and in the corridors of the Parliament, these are very worrisome. Worrisome in terms of the social cohesiveness which we tend to disrupt, because employment in this country, particularly because of the demographic differentials, the people who are really losing jobs and are not getting jobs are very much younger people, and this disrupts the social compact in general, and therefore This is a worrisome phenomena, quite apart from these kind of numbers which you hear, or whether you're just shaving off 2% or 3% in terms of GDP growth.
You're a Rajya Sabha MP nominated from Bihar. What is the situation of Bihar in this slow growth situation?
As far as Bihar is concerned, you know, this government began from a rather low base. And this government greatly believed that if development is to have meaning, it must be socially cohesive and development-centric administration, which is what Nitish has tried to pursue, recognizing that you cannot do anything without men, but you cannot really do anything without institutions. So institution building, building capabilities in education and health, preventing the relentless onslaught of migration, value-added jobs being lost to the state, that's something which you have really keenly focused on. And Bihar may not feel the adverse impact of this slowdown because we began from a rather low level of development. We could not have gone lower. And I expect that even when the meltdown takes place this year and next year, Bihar should do somewhat better than some of the other more fast-growing states.
But let me give you one example of an adverse impact of not so much the meltdown, but the poor law and order situation in Bihar. A company which I'm involved in was setting up a large manufacturing center in Bard. In Bard, which is Nitish Kumar's constituency.
Yes, yes.
There were 2 murders that took place. One of the company servant itself and one of a contractor. They've pulled it out.
Well, I think that it's rather sad that this happened. But let me say that contrary to this, there are many other such episodic examples which can be given where the company has gone in and reinforced its presence because of the significant improvement in law and order.
So why don't you give us some?
Look at, for instance, in terms of what has happened to Suresh Nevetia's big investment which is taking place in Pulwari Sharif. Look, for instance, the large trust and investment which Reliance and which HPCL is making in terms of 2 important sugar mills in terms of taking Motipur and Lauria in Bihar. Look, for instance, the kind of expansion program for many central utility power stations taking place. So there are large segments of investment which are coming in, recognizing that the law and order situation has in fact improved significantly if you go by such quantitative yardsticks in terms of crime detected, speed of investigation, and more importantly, speed of conviction.
Terrible poverty in Bihar, some of the worst statistics in terms of education. What is the government proposing to do about it?
Frankly, education has been one of the focal points of Nitish's government. Like it or not, it is quite a mind-boggling statistics that in the last 18 months, we have employed 150,000 new primary teachers, 50% women. Of course, the challenge of educating the teachers is a challenging one, but re-employing them. 150,000 new appointments of primary teachers in order to bring down dramatically the student-teacher ratio, bring down dramatically the dropout ratios, improving the quality of training. So education has been the big focus along with vocational education. The number of ITIs in Bihar being modernized, changing the syllabus, changing the curriculum to make their jobs, even if they choose to migrate, a value-added one. And therefore, we do believe that the virtuous circles from improved health, which is another very primary area. Just to give you an example, Omkar, before we focused on health, the average number of patients who visited a primary health center in Bihar used to be just 30 a month. This is not because Bihar was very healthy, but because there were no doctors and there were no medicines and there were no facility. That average number, in terms of improved monitoring, in terms of making sure that doctors are present, has gone up from just that meager figure which I told you to 3,800, which doesn't mean that Bihar has become more sick, but it does mean definitely that people are being attended to better.
You're married to someone from Rajasthan, so here's the question. How long will it take for Bihar's key statistics, health, mortality, education, and economic statistics to be better than Rajasthan's?
Well before Nitish Kumar finishes his term and well before Mr. Galot ends his.
So you're talking of 5 years. 4
I'm
years?
talking of 2.5 years.
In 2.5 years,
We
you'll say Bihar, you're saying, and this is very important for our viewers, in 2.5 years, you are saying that the government of Nitish Kumar will actually create a Bihar where the indices are going to be better than Rajasthan's.
Well, I'm saying that. And that's the least we can do to justify the trust and confidence which the electorate had put in Nitish Kumar's government.
That's a brilliant situation to be in, and I hope you get it. Let's just move on to governance. And now that you are a member of the Rajya Sabha, a very fascinating thing I found. I wanted to find out the attendance of Rajya Sabha MPs. And in the website was a new thing that said attendance record. When I clicked on the Rajya Sabha website attendance record, it couldn't come up because they had taken it off. How poor is the attendance of people in Rajya Sabha?
Well, I'm glad you're asking me that question because I clicked on that website myself this afternoon.
Did you find anything?
I find the 214th Rajya Sabha, which you say the website doesn't show this, has been deliberately taken off for just 3 days in order to update the last segment of the Rajya Sabha. Generally, we are better off in terms of attendance and in terms of the transparency of statistics than perhaps the Lok Sabha, although I do not want to enter into the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha kind of a controversy, but it was there and is being updated to bring it up to date to the last segment of the so-called monsoon session of Parliament, which ended only on the 23rd of December.
So let me tell you a Lok Sabha picture, and you must have seen this on television. On the 29th of February 2008, when Mr. Chidambaram was presenting his budget, there were 114 absentees in Lok Sabha. There were empty benches staring as the finance minister was presenting his budget. How long will this disgraceful attendance record continue? And what can we do about this? You are now a person who is in politics. What can we do to ensure that people who we elect, either through the Electoral College or directly, actually attend and do their work?
I find that the most important thing which can be done is certainly peer group pressure, electoral pressure, because I think that if there is any figure which has to go by, the recent outcome of many state elections has proved that the electorate is becoming increasingly conscious and increasingly mindful of the behavior and performance of those it chooses to elect. So I think that I see a significant improvement in not only participation, but a meaningful participation of legislatures in both houses of parliament. Let me say that in terms of Rajya Sabha, in the quality of some of the debates which you have had in this, not this perhaps session, but in the session which just came before this, the appropriations bill was discussed in great detail. The economic situation was discussed in great detail. We had the participation of some very eminent people who are in the Rajya Sabha, illustratively like Bimal Jalan, Arjun Sen Gupta, some of us who have been known to be writing on economic subjects. And I think that the chairman of the Rajya Sabha recognized that the participation had been meaningful and constructive. So I do believe that some odd day, some behavioral pattern should not really blur the overall picture that the peer group pressure and electoral pressures brings about a qualitative change in the behavioral pattern and the quality of participation of the legislators.
We're going to talk more about the behavioral pattern, the criminality, and the quality of people who are our representatives. But we take a short break. So let's take a short break now, and when we come back with N.K. Singh talking about the people who we elect. Don't go away.
Question Time, the Omkar Goswami Show, is presented by LIC of India in association with ING, Banking, Investments, Life Insurance. LIC presents the NDTV Indian of the Year. Vote now. The nominees for cinema are 16 Amir Khan, 17 Nasiruddin Shah, 18 Prasoon Joshi, 19 Akshay Kumar, 20 Katrina Kaif. To vote, type I or Y on your cell phone, leave a space, enter the number of your nominee and SMS it to 56388. or log on to www.ndtv.com, or you can also log on to mobile.ndtv.com on your web phone browsers. Later this year, we'll bring you a special show on LIC's NDTV Indian of the Year 2008. Vote now. NDTV Indian of the Year is presented by LIC of India. In association with HP Pavilion Notebooks, the computer is personal again.
I have just downloaded my favorite song. I've just completed my share transaction.
There's a lot to be explored on the net, and we help you do that. Hathway Broadband Internet. To get connected, visit us at hathway.com or please call our customer care at the following numbers.
Say yes to growth. Yes Bank.
Vote and win with the Car and Bike Show. The nominees for the CNB Viewers' Choice Car of the Year are F. Honda City, G. Volkswagen Jetta, H. Maruti Suzuki A-Star, I. Skoda Fabia, J. Tata Indica Vista. To vote, just type CNB, a space and your choice and SMS it to 56388. Or email your choice to cnb@ndtv.com. You can also log on to www.ndtv.com or ndtvprofit.com and cast your vote online. On your web phone browser, go to mobile.ndtv.com to cast your vote. If your choice is the winner, you could drive away in the Viewer's Choice Car of the Year. Vote now.
For all the news and all the anti-social views, for all the movies and all the reviews, for all the music and all its fervour, for all the cricket and all its colour, for all the bulls and the fewest of bears, for astrology telling you of tomorrow's shares, mobile.ndtv.com for the India that's always on the go.
Welcome back. You're watching Question Time, and my guest today is Nand Kishore Singh, known as NK Singh. NK, we were talking about the situation where things are really crumbling in the Lok Sabha in terms of attendance. Now, here's a case. The 8 critical bills were passed in Lok Sabha without any debate. I think the total debating time in this session to pass 8 bills was 10 minutes. I mean, Jawaharlal Nehru would have wept.
Sure. And I think that there can be little defense of the fact that important legislations received, in the words of the chairman of the Rajya Sabha himself, no debate to try and discover their legislative intent or to put the executive in any questioning. And that's a kind of a conduct which can hardly any member of parliament can and condone and would like to feel proud about. I think we need to have some modalities.
What modality?
In my view, the modality can be obviously some agreement between the two mainstream parties and the Speaker or the Chairman of the Rajya Sabha, making sure that important bills, legislation like the Appropriations Bill, like for instance the bill, fortunately the bill on the new law on terror was subjected to debate, but then the Appropriations Bill, the Railways Bill, the Anti-Corruption Bill, the Telecommunications Bill, a whole host of bills were passed without any serious discussion. Some modalities, an arrangement between two mainstream parties to really make sure that these bills are subjected to orderly discussions which are constructive.
You know, it is now said that there are 130 odd MPs in the Lok Sabha who have one or more serious criminal charge against them, of which we have some leading luminaries like Pappu Yadav or Mohammad Shahabuddin. How do we prevent criminals from being in the lower house of parliament or even the upper house?
I think that you need to change, if you want to do that, the electoral law, because as long as the law of the land is what it is, that till he does not exhaust all the appellate processes under the law, you cannot really debar him. That's the law today. If you want to really refine that law, the electoral law needs to be changed, and that change requires a wider measure of consensus across the political spectrum.
Why is there not? Why cannot the two main parties, and the rest will follow suit, stand up and say that anybody who has criminal charges against them, we are not going to let them stand?
I think that you need to bring in certainly regional parties. And I think this is an important issue enough on which, but since the fact remains that all parties, unfortunately, have some people with a serious tainted record, you do require a much wider electoral pressure to enforce this kind of consensus across the political spectrum.
And as they say in the US, turkeys have never voted for Christmas, right?
Well, there you are.
You joined the civil service in 1964, Bihar cadre IAS. That's the time, and including the time when I was in university, which is in the 70s, the best and the brightest either went for higher studies abroad or sat for the Union Public Service exam. So you really had a first-rate civil service. Would you say the quality has deteriorated dramatically in the last 5 or 7 years?
Well, I'll say this, that between that time and now, the reforms of the Indian economy, the globalization, and the policy generally of economic liberalization which you have pursued has thrown up enormous job opportunities outside the civil service establishment. To some extent, therefore, the best and the brightest had no option but to go in for the civil service or perhaps into academic pursuit. This can hardly be said now when they are choosing gainful careers.
Is it to the detriment of the iron frame?
Well, it's not to the detriment of the iron frame. The iron frame needs to recognize that the iron frame needs to be flexibly molded. Government needs to play a lesser and lesser role in micromanaging the lives of people, needs to concentrate on core areas like maintenance of law and order, maintenance of threat to security, and providing an orderly regulatory framework for entrepreneurial skills.
How do you get first-class district officers today? Incorruptible, will not take into political pressure, will do a job, a really first-class district officer like you got in your days?
By a code of conduct accepted not only by civil service but by politicians, in which you allow them to pursue what is their rightful responsibility without excessive politicization of the civil service.
And you see that happening ever?
I have seen that deteriorate rapidly.
You served under 4 finance ministers and 1 prime minister. They were your direct bosses. Manmohan Singh, Mr. Chidambaram, Yashwant Sinha, and Jaswant Singh. And you worked in the Prime Minister's Secretariat under Mr. Vajpayee. Tell us about each one. Manmohan Singh.
Begin Dr. Manmohan Singh, a man who greatly believed in delegation of functions, into recognizing clearly that even if you were wrong, was it a worthwhile thing for the minister to know or interfere with? Someone who assessed you and then delegated enormous powers. Jaswant Singh, a man who had a very healthy contempt for the kind of people in the pursuit of what is known as the dismal science. He once asked me a very old question that they keep telling me current account deficit. What is so current about the deficit? And he had this kind of a healthy contempt for economists.
He actually called finance a matter of mere money. I remember that.
And a dismal science. So somebody like Mr. Chidambaram, a man who had no time for fools, a great micromanager, whose confidence you could not automatically take for granted, but whose respect you could earn if you had something to contribute.
Was he an arrogant man?
No, he was a man who was self-assured and would look for the similar talent in others. And if you found one, he would begin to respect you and value your advice. But you could not automatically take that for granted. Yashwant Sinha, a good blend of civil service without domain knowledge, seeking to be a dilettante, and therefore learning as he went along. I think they provided a full spectrum from somebody who knew the domain responsibilities like Dr. Manmohan Singh immeasurably to somebody who did not know his domain knowledge.
But among the 4, I'm not asking you to mention the worst, but who do you think was the best finance minister you worked under?
I think that's clearly, without doubt, Dr. Manmohan Singh.
You also worked under an amazing prime minister Mr. Vajpayee, who delegated, who listened. What was the experience like?
In one sentence, more was understood than said. A prime minister with whom you needed to strike that kind of a rapport that not everything need be translated into black and white, and you must really intuitively infer what really were the prime minister's inclination at that time. An amazing man who started the great telecom revolution, who fostered the great National Highway Authority, created the Golden Quadrilateral, which is one of the center points of India's effort to try and become an important global power. You know how the entire GQ started?
Yeah, tell us.
If I told you that episode,
sure.
I took up a speech to him which he was to deliver to an important annual meeting of the CII. He asked me, is there anything new in the speech? So I said, well, I mean, not really. He said, what is the use? What can you think of a big idea? Why can't we think of the idea, let us say, of integrating India more decisively as a common market? What can do that? I said, perhaps road. I said, why don't we announce a major road program tomorrow? And that's how GQ was announced in a one-line prime ministerial announcement that he will start a program which will connect the 4 important ports in India, the Golden Quadrilateral, as we know. Telecom, it's an amazing story. I was with Mr. Vajpayee in New York. He was about to address the important Indian businessmen and the important Wall Street. He said, are we saying something which is decisively going to catch the imagination of either the American investors or the Indian investors? And can you think of something? We talked about it. Mr. Bijesh Mishra was also present. And
so
then,
what did he say?
And then he said, what about improving, we did the road connectivity. What about improving telephone connectivity? I said, that's possible. What do we need to do for that? I said, deregulate the entire telecom sector. And that, if you see his New York address, he said, one line, we have decided to deregulate the telephony sector upstream and downstream, the beginnings of the important telecom revolution, which you all know has been an important factor.
He's an amazing character, but I now want to end this program with you. You have been pretty much everywhere. Bihar, Tokyo, Delhi, different offices, now the Rajya Sabha. If wishes were horses, what would be the one thing you would want to do?
One thing which I'd want to do, give India an education system which will not only make us proud, but which will guarantee to the new generation of India and to the demographic differentials we talk about, that India has indeed arrived on the global scene. Reforms of education would be central to my heart.
You have 5 years and 3 months to do it in your tenure in the Rajya Sabha. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thanks, Omkar. Thank you very much.
That was N.K. Singh, Rajya Sabha MP. Till we meet tomorrow, thanks for watching the show.
Get a jump start to your business day
with the all-new Breakfast with Profit.
Wrap of news in the corporate world across the world. Get the morning edge. Connect with global markets.
India can grow at a faster pace with lower inflation.
The overall economy can still grow by something around 6%.
Track the hottest stories.
Markets may relook at this issue of interest rates and interest rates may come down.
Get up to speed with everything that's making news.
Real estate is the backbone. It has started coming up at realistic prices now.
Start your day with me, Ira Tugal.
And me, Serena Rani.
Breakfast with Profit. Weekdays at 8 a.m. on NDTV Profit. Breakfast with Profit brought to you by LIC of India.
मम्मी मेरी रिमोट वाली कार गुम हो गई है।
इधर किधर ही होगी?
मैं आपको नई गाड़ी लाके दूंगा।
आप क्यों लाएंगे? मेरे पापा लाएंगे।
और अगर आपके पापा गुम हो गए तो?
और अगर पापा गुम हो भी गए तो भी पापा ही ला कर देंगे।
लाइफ इंश्योरेंस प्लान्स फ्रॉम HDFC स्टैंडर्ड लाइफ। सर उठा के जियो।
I just defeated my cousin in the US.
I've just completed my share transaction.
There's a lot to be explored on the net, and we help you do that. Hathway Broadband Internet. To get connected, visit us at hathway.com or please call our customer care at the following numbers. "50 years of believing in each other